Hello there, Next Stop Thrift here. My name's Joseph, and in today's episode I'm going to discuss my experience working at one of the larger chained thrift stores. This was pre-COVID, and I was debating whether I wanted to do a brick and mortar. Now after it and seeing that unless I was selling hot dogs out of the side, it's not essential, so really not going to be interested in doing that. I have a little idea for it, maybe do a little shop, but that's not here to discuss my goals. So I got the job, and I was just one of the I accepted the donations that came in. There was categories in which I sorted the donation out into, so books, movies, video games, clothes, electronics, shoes, small goods, and then your seasonal and athletic goods, your skis, your baseball bats, your golf clubs, whatever. And then my super favorite was stuff for their online store. So anything that was probably, if you're a reseller, anything that's cool. Your Xboxes, your PlayStations, your high-end video game. Well, they looked up every single video game. So if it was decent price, it never hits the floor. The only ones that go out onto the floor is if it's a good video game, it's scratched to hell. So that's just been totally eliminated. You have to go to their website and buy it off of there. Anything name brand that's in really good condition, or I'm not going to necessarily say rare, but just certain looking bags, purses, things like that were checked by somebody to see if they're fake or not, and then they will never hit the floor. You will never know that they even come in. And like your swords, your airsoft guns, anything like that. Like I said, any of your cool items. At this particular thrift store chain, those things no longer hit the floor. It's not an option. Because, heaven forbid that they would cheaply resell a free good or free donation, and somebody would come in there as a reseller, take the time and energy to clean it up, look it up, post it, and make more money off of it than they possibly could. So they're just trying to eliminate that. They're slowly doing it, and on the stuff that they do decide to put out on the floor, now just prices are jacked up. So you've been there. I know that you've all probably been to this particular thrift store chain and are watching what they're doing, and it's absolutely ridiculous as they proclaim that it's for charity. So we're not going to get into that today. That's totally irrelevant. So anyways, sorted out. I know that it's a turn and burn game, and donations are laid on this place like no other. And so to not get buried, you have to get stuff out. But just because the item says Nike on it doesn't make it worth $7.99 if you haven't fully checked it over. Armpits, seams, all of that, to make sure that it's in the $7.99 category. But as soon as there's a hole in it or a rip in the seam, it's no longer worth that. And it's just silly that they even put the effort in to go through all of that to put it on the floor if it's not even worth that. So anyways, so kind of learned how they did that. A lot of it shipped out, and a lot of it goes to the trash. I think individuals would be surprised how much goes to the trash, but in the same breath, you'd be surprised how many people just drop their shit off and want you to take care of it as the thrift store. So after seeing that, I was like, all right, I've seen the high end of thrift stores or major chains. So I went to a mom and pop thrift store. Well, these guys thought everything had a value. I mean, the back stock or the warehouse room and the back stock was so overwhelming. And so you never really actually got through anything. And they're spending time washing all the clothes. And then sometimes you'd wash the clothes and they were still stained. And so just all that time and energy and never really getting things out onto the floor, quality products out onto the floor, took too long. Whereas the big chain, it was like, oh, this item here, let's get that out right away. Let's get that out now. Let's get that furniture out now. Whereas this mom and pop store was, well, we got to check it over. Little too much attention to detail. So there's this fine line, this fine balance of trying to figure out how to get stuff out quickly and whatnot. But anyways, well, what these guys started to do was they hired a couple more people and they just started to rush, your tools, your electronics, books, like yarn, just all sorts of stuff, just little knick-knack stuff. I mean, every piece of glassware that came in through that place always went out onto the floor. And not for like 25 cents. I mean, they were like putting almost $2 on every piece of glass, and it was, and stuff never moved. And they would just put more and more and more, and there was no color categories of like, oh, this came in this month, this came in this month. It was just put it out there, put it up there for too high priced. And my experience there as I was working there and watching things grow and kind of develop, they had gotten a new manager and things started to kind of change, but the whole get everything out, don't throw anything away, really got in their way. And so just what was happening was there's a thrift store about 2 blocks away from them that they throw a lot of their stuff away, but they get it out there, out on the floor quick. Usually it's the better condition stuff, and they put a really reasonable price on there. You know, it is, you know, they don't have a huge glassware section. You know, it's kind of like, oh, if it's not name brand or, you know, got like Coors Light on it or, you know, things like that. It's just not going out on the floor. And then when it is on the floor, it's so reasonably priced that it doesn't really stay on the floor much. So that place is packed. I mean, packed from the moment it opens to the moment that it closes. And people walk out. I mean, well, the thrift store that I was working at opened during the same amount of time, and those people would come over after they. Well, that's going to be good in the video, but I'm already into this thing, and I'm not going to cut that out. So enjoy that. Excuse me. Back to business. Those people were then coming over to the thrift store that I worked at, walking through it, and then walking right out. Spending very minimal time in there, and if anything, weren't buying that much. I mean, people were still buying stuff, but just not enough, not to what the other thrift store was doing. And you know, you bring that to attention, and it was just like, well, you don't know what you're talking about. You know, and it's like, well, I'm not going to tell them that my goal is to own a thrift store. I just want to see how this stuff operates. And so those are my 2 experiences from working for a major chain thrift store and working for a mom and pop thrift store. They are changing the game for the resellers. And, you know, to stay on top of this business, you have to be aware of this stuff. and know that the game is slowly changing in front of you. And it's up to you to make those decisions, but it is changing, and you can't continue to pay these higher prices and miss out on these good items. You've got to change what you're doing, and that's your responsibility to figure out, not for me to tell you, because all of us in this game approach it differently and have different expectations and have a different bankroll, and we only have certain amount of times in our free time in our life to do this or that in our side hustle. And so I leave you with my thrift store experience. Hope you enjoyed it. I wish everybody the best of luck out there. Make all sorts of money, find that great score, and we'll see you on the other side.